Secretary Mnuchin, for coming here today. I'd like to focus on one of the sparse areas of potential bipartisan agreement, namely the need for forceful and effective national response to any future currency manipulation by our trading partners. As a manufacturing businessman and someone who's co-founded in our basement a company that now manufactures most of the theater lighting equipment in the U.S. and exports a good fraction of what it manufactures, I've been long concerned about the currency manipulation by foreign nations that creates an unlevel playing field favoring their domestic manufacturers. As you're aware, Treasury has been charged by Congress with making periodic reports on currency manipulation. To that end, Treasury's developed an objective, quantitative three-part test, which I strongly support and believe was done very well. In your most recent report, I believe you correctly concluded that 6 countries, including China, should be put on the watch list for violating 2 out of the 3 criteria, but that at present no country satisfies all 3 criteria. The difficulty, of course, is that if in the future any country is designated a currency manipulator, the only mandatory response could be charitably described as toothless jawboning. There is an alternative, which is for the United States to unilaterally declare, as a matter of national policy, that whenever any country is designated a currency manipulator, we would engage in countervailing currency manipulation. Simply put, if one of our trading partners intervened in currency markets to depress the value of their currency for competitive advantage, the U.S. would engage in an equal and opposite currency intervention to cancel this effect. Dr. Fred Bergston of the Peterson Institute has long advocated for the countervailing currency intervention approach as a response to foreign manipulation. He recently published a book on this with Dr. Joseph Gagnon with very specific proposals for this. And while there is some authority under current law to respond in this manner against a designated currency manipulator, it could obviously be strengthened with legislation. So my question is, what specific actions are you considering against possible future currency manipulation if it occurs? And would you be open to considering countervailing currency intervention or other approaches as in a response?
Well, thank you, and we look forward to working with you on this. And I can tell you we have recently studied this internally as it relates to NAFTA, where we're going to be going through a renegotiation process. This is one of the issues we're going to look at adding into the agreement. And I think this sounds like...
Excuse me, but in the case of NAFTA, I believe, in North America, currency intervention, manipulation has not been a major issue.
I understand that. I'm just saying it's only come up because of the legislation and us looking at what we use going forward in trade agreements. So we are focused. I do agree with you. If someone is a currency manipulator and labeled and determined as such, there should be an impact of what that means and not just talk. The idea that you've cited may be one of many. I surely wouldn't want to be required to have to do that because the countervailing size and scale may be quite large, but we do need to have an impact. If someone does manipulate their currency and impacts American companies and American workers, there needs to be an impact and a result.
Yeah, well, the advantage of an equal and opposite intervention, if they go intervene in the market and buy X dollars, we intervene and buy X dollars of their currency, and so equal and opposite is a well-defined and appropriate response to nullify this. Secondly, I'd like to ask you what your reaction is to the idea of permanently repealing the debt limit. There was a very interesting Wall Street Journal editorial by a very prominent, Jason Furman and Rohit Kumar, very prominent members of both parties advocating for this. Among other points they made was that Democrats are currently using the debt limit as leverage to increase spending. Okay, which is not normally something Republicans would be enthusiastic about. So I was wondering what your reaction would be and what the reaction of the administration would be to the idea of just saying, let's have an appropriate budget process instead of arguing about whether or not we should pay for a meal after we've eaten it.
Well, I think we got to look at this, and I agree that there should be a change going forward. We're obviously not going to address this now, but we have a debt limit, we have a budget process, and we have an appropriations process. I'm all for there should be very strict controls of spending money, but once we've agreed to spend the money, we should make sure that the government can pay for it.
Right. So the idea of the debt limit as a mechanism is not something you're enthusiastic about?
I'm not.
All right. Thank you. Well, I look forward to working with you on this.
Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair